Hey, it's good to have you going down the road with us today. Here, I'm Tyler Axnes, filling in for Joel Heidkamp, creator and writer of NDExplains.com, also a talk radio host out here on the eastern side of the state. Don't worry, Joel will be back tomorrow. I'll try to keep it in between the lines as best as I can between now and when he's back. We got a lot of ground to cover today. We've got the second impeachment trial of former President Donald Trump ongoing. We're on day number 2 right now in the U.S. Senate. We're going to cover that in just a little bit. Also, North Dakota legislative sessions rolling on. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad. We're going to break that down for you as well. We are 11 days from NDSU Bison football. We're going to get you all revved up for that and talk about that moment of Joe Haeg almost catching a touchdown. Walk on, now a world champion. But there's all that coming up a little bit later on. I want to start right here, though. We are 3 weeks exactly from Joe Biden becoming president, inaugurated 3 weeks ago today. And over the course of those 3 weeks, we've got over 40 executive orders, a lot of which have a focus that impact us right here in North Dakota and, quite frankly, the energy sector. And when I think about what this all means on the national scale, not just here in North Dakota, there's one person that came to mind, former U.S. Senator from the great state of Alaska, Mark Begich. And he joins us right now on Down the Road with Joel Heidkamp. Senator, welcome. Thanks for taking some time with us here in North Dakota. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much, Tyler. And I want you to know we're in a balmy 10 above here, moving to 25 above Alaska as the banana belt of the winter states, Arctic states.
Well, let me just tell you one thing. Right now in North Dakota, we're on the negative side of double digits. And it's not going to be getting any better anytime soon, unfortunately, according to our meteorologists here. But we've been pretty spoiled so far this winter. So I'm not going to complain too much. Just a little bit, good. But thanks for rubbing that in, Senator.
No problem.
I wanted to have you on. You served during the Barack Obama administration out in the United States Senate, and there's been a lot of chatter over the first 3 weeks. And actually, when you think about the nominees that Joe Biden, President Biden, has put forward, people are saying, this kind of reminds me a lot of the Obama administration. In particular, here in North Dakota, there's been a lot of talk about the energy sector and what this might mean going forward. Over the first 3 weeks, what are you seeing from the Biden administration when it comes to oil, when it comes to coal, when it comes to natural gas?
Well, as you know, with Alaska, we're 80% of our state budget is based on oil and oil taxes, gas taxes, revenue streams, royalties, so forth. So we're very aware of the impact. But I want to put it in perspective because, has climate change become more prevalent in the political talk now than ever before? Yes. Is that a good thing in the long term of the health of this environment in this state, in this country, in the world? Yes. But, it is not the only solution to our energy issues and getting more clean energy. As we know, in states like ours, oil and gas is a part of the equation. And I know people on both sides, there's extremes on both sides, but the reality is, when Obama became president, remember, his vice president was Joe Biden. Right. When they became president, vice president, the rumor was the Arctic will never open up to oil and gas. The Alaska will be a ghost town. The reality was not only did we open up the Arctic for oil and gas exploration by Shell Company, we also had the National Petroleum Reserve for the first time moving forward, and now we have multiple drilling activity going on there, continuing to move forward. So it's a careful balance they're going to have, and I think you're going to have a strong push, do not get me wrong, about climate change. As you know, in your state, wind energy is a huge opportunity and a possibility of expanding energy needs, and I think they're going to really focus on that. But they cannot get away from the issue that a lot of our industrial part of our country is run through natural gas, to some degree still a lot of coal, especially on the East Coast. But also when you look at what you're doing on transportation, especially truck transportation and so forth. So I think there's going to be this loud noise, you might say, from the opposition to the Biden administration that will try to create boogeymans out there. Now, will it be like the Trump era? No. Will it be a free-for-all, anything goes, no regulation, who cares what happens to the environment? No, that's not going to happen. But is there a careful balance? Yes. And I think it's incumbent upon folks like yourself and your listeners and honestly, your delegation, like our delegation, not to be spinning the web of information that isn't factual, but focused on what's possible and trying to figure out where those opportunities are. And for example, natural gas is a huge opportunity in a lot of ways because they fuel a lot of energy plants, electricity plants. So it's going to be different than the Trump administration. Do not get me wrong there. But to believe that it's going to be a lockdown and that's the end of it, I would not agree with that statement at all by some of these guys.
Well, and Mark, let's take that for a little walk. You mentioned your delegation, our delegation. You know, we've got a lone congressman, Kelly Armstrong, been very involved in the oil industry. And in particular, the thing that caught his attention, and quite frankly, he had an opinion that was published in papers across the state, Congressman Kelly Armstrong talking about the Keystone XL pipeline and removing the permit to get that built and what that means, not really necessarily just for the oil industry itself, but for the union jobs that that are going to be displaced for building that pipeline. But he took a little bit step further. He said the decision, quite frankly, is an assault on North Dakota, and not just the industry, but our economy that relies, as Alaska does, so heavily on oil production, but also on those jobs. And he went on to say, you know what, this starts with the Keystone. Where does it end? Does it go to the Dakota Access Pipeline? Pipeline infrastructure in general, so vital to moving this product. I'm starting to see some of that rhetoric that you're talking about, but I'm wondering how much of that actually carries some weight and some truthfulness to it and merit going forward.
Well, here's an example I love to use. In Alaska, we have a big gas line project that's been in the works for 40, 50 years. And they've now decided to break it up into a phase from the North Slope to Fairbanks. And here's the argument we're making. We want to build this pipeline. Why? It's going to bring natural gas to Fairbanks, which currently only burns wood and coal and trucks in gas because they can't get gas anywhere. We are in the top 10 in EPA non-attainment areas, and we have some of the highest costs. And we're arguing to the administration, the new administration, look, this is a kind of gas line you should support because it will bring clean burning fuel to the area, get us out of an environmental problem with the EPA that's been there for 2 decades, and will lower costs to make the cost of living for the average Alaskan in Fairbanks better than it is today. And in the sense of on the military base, the last coal plant the military happens to be in Fairbanks, Alaska. This will convert it to natural gas. So we've had to kind of jigger the argument, you might say, in order to have them understand on their terms why this pipeline is important. And on top of that, just what you said, jobs, jobs, jobs. As President Biden talked about during his election, we talked about the economy. Get COVID under control, then focus on infrastructure. There is no better infrastructure to build when it comes to moving fuel sources than a pipeline. It doesn't matter if it's in North Dakota or Alaska. As you know, when you're trucking it, the cost is higher, the risk is higher. There's a lot of other issues. But if you can move it through pipe, it is a much better way to do it, safer. But it also, as you just said, it's good, solid union jobs. And Biden, as you know, was supported heavily by the trade unions. And I think the Keystone one was kind of a mixed bag because it was I want to say holdover in a way from the Obama Biden battles with the oil industry. But these other ones are kind of fresh American jobs, local, like the pipe that we have in Alaska. They were going to build with Chinese pipe. Now it's going to be built with pipe here in the United States by labor in the United States. That's another, we have to kind of just rethink how to show this to this administration, but also talk about American jobs, American material, and why it makes a difference. But again, if you put your head in the sand and say, oh, the Biden administration is going to be a disaster for everything, well, then guess what? You will dictate your outcome. Well, the better approach is get going.
And Senator, to that point, and I know it, I just said we're only 3 weeks in where you're talking about lobbying. I'm speaking their language. My question is, are they listening?
I think they are. You know, the EPA director that just got, passed through committee, he is a much more moderate, you might say. I think they're mostly listening right now to, we got to get our people appointed. We got to get the government going to get COVID out of the way. I think they've done some what I call political executive orders because they had a laundry list of things they said during the campaign. And executive orders are a great way to kind of say, okay, we're doing this and we're done. And now they got to work on COVID. And I think where we're going to see the difference is as they move to infrastructure bill. In other words, what kind of infrastructure they can invest in. They cannot exclude the energy sector to just going after climate change infrastructure investment. The energy sector is an important part of this economy. It's an important part of the job creator, and it's an important part, especially when you think of low-cost fuels, to energize what I expect. I would assume you probably think the same thing. By third quarter this year, our economy is going to start picking up, and we have to have the resources to make that happen. So, listening, I tell people it's only 3 weeks. It's a payday and a half, as I'd like to say. So we got to be careful that we don't create judgment prior to some actions that are real, not just executive orders that are a lot of talking paper.
Well, and Senator, I'm glad you are able to, reiterate again that it's been 3 weeks, and I know that
right.
with the pandemic going on, I mean, the industry itself was one of those first ones that felt the impacts. I mean, you had the pandemic's halt travel, you had the global markets taking a hit. I get the concern and the frustration. I think maybe we leave this conversation with just saying, everybody take a breath. We've got some work to do. It does sound like the administration will listen. We just got to find voices within the middle of this country to start talking. Senator, right. I've got about 20 seconds left. Final word goes to you.
I just say your words were right on. Be patient, be calm, rethink about how you want to pitch to this administration, find the wins, and keep building this country the way we need to, and energy is a big part of it. Very good. Senator Mark Begich, I appreciate it, my friend. We'll talk again soon. You take care, all right? Thank you very much. Thank you. Folks, coming up next on Down the Road, again, I'm Tyler Axis, filling in for Joel Heitkamp. Day 2 of the Senate impeachment trial for Donald Trump. Jason Matthews, political and science instructor, next.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Heroes and Icons is now Cozy TV. Don't worry, you'll still get your favorite Beck News programming without changing the channel. Real people, real news, Beck News.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
Welcome back to Down the Road with Joel Heidkamp. I'm Tyler Axon, is filling in today for Joel. He will be back tomorrow. Creator and writer of NDExplains.com. Also do a talk show on radio on the eastern side of the state. Folks, we're on day number 2 of the second impeachment trial for former President Donald Trump. Senate had their opening remarks heard yesterday. Day 2 now. Here to break it all down, I mean, there's a lot to digest. Is this constitutional? Walk me through this. Is a friend of mine, and quite frankly, a co-host of a podcast we do each and every Friday on NDExplains.com. Political and science instructor Jason Matthews joins Down the Road with Joel Heidkamp right now. Jason, welcome to the program. How are you doing?
Good to be with you, buddy.
I appreciate you taking time because there's a lot to digest. Yesterday was the opening. House managers come over and they played about 13 minutes of a video from January 6th, making the argument that Donald Trump, then president, incited the mob, of which we've seen the images. Whether it was watching it live that day or certainly ever since. There's a lot of questions, as I've been saying. And let's start with, is this constitutional? Because that's the argument that the defense is making, that you cannot impeach a private citizen, which is what now we find Donald Trump as.
Well, that argument that you can't impeach a private citizen is a new argument. It's a convenient argument, but it's not consistent with the history or any plain reading of the Constitution or history. I thought yesterday the House managers presented a brilliant case because it was based in a plain textual reading of the Constitution, the Federalist Papers, history, along with the writings of the framers. It was always understood, has always been understood, that you can impeach someone after they've already left office. They presented the argument in the examples of William Belknap, who was Ulysses S. Grant's Secretary of War in the 1870s, who was impeached after he resigned for influence peddling. They presented the argument of Warren Hastings, who was a representative of the Crown in a British province back during the time of the Constitutional Convention. He had been out of office for 2 years, and he was brought up on impeachment charges. That was actually cited in the Constitutional Convention as an example that you can impeach someone who had left office. But I would make the argument here, and this is the key point. Donald Trump was impeached on January 13th. He left office on January 20th. Donald Trump was impeached by the House as a sitting president. The Senate now is taking up the trial for crimes, offenses that he committed relating to the January 6th insurrection when he was president.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's an argument I've been making, that, the impeachment happened while Donald Trump was still president. It was the Senate and the Senate Majority Leader at the time, Mitch McConnell, that didn't want to touch the impeachment trial at that time, saying let's wait on this. Now there's a 50-50 split. You got the Vice President now being the tiebreaker. But the argument then was, we got to wait on this. We don't want to rush this impeachment. Now the argument is, he's no longer president. We cannot convict somebody that's a private citizen. How much does this weigh on? Is this the out that the Senate Republicans are using to not form a conviction, and quite frankly using a technicality to form an acquittal?
Well, the Senate Republicans, 44 of them yesterday, decided to take the off-ramp. Let's just be blunt about it. And you know this, you're a former state senator. You understand this as well as anyone, that whenever you give a legislator a procedural off-ramp that allows them to argue procedure and tactics, which prevents them or gives them cover from taking a difficult vote on the substance of a matter, the legislator is going to take the procedural off-ramp. And that's precisely what the Senate Republicans decided to do, 44 of them yesterday, in their vote that it was an unconstitutional proceeding. But looking at this from the political science standpoint and going back to the framers devised this system with 3 branches of government, that the 3 branches would be jealous of one another's power and that they would jealously guard their power. And what 44 senators yesterday did was they were willing to relinquish that power. And Lisa Murkowski, Republican from Alaska, really put her finger on it, I thought, beautifully last night when she said that this isn't about Donald Trump. This is about the Senate's sole power over all impeachments. I'm not willing to set a precedent in giving up Senate power over all impeachments.
Jason, I want to touch on the fact that the defense yesterday didn't really defend the actions, the comments from former President Donald Trump. They talked about this technicality of the Constitution. Who did talk about the actions, the comments of former President Trump was the House managers. In fact, I want you to take a look at what Representative Jamie Raskin said about his family that was at the Capitol as the insurrection was taking place.
And when they were finally rescued, over an hour later by Capitol officers, and we were together, I hugged them and I apologized, and I told my daughter Tabitha, who's 24 and a brilliant algebra teacher in Teach for America now, I told her how sorry I was, and I promised her that it would not be like this again the next time she came back to the Capitol with me. And you know what she said? She said, "Dad, I don't want to come back to the Capitol." Of all the terrible, brutal things I saw and I heard on that day, and since then, that one hit me the hardest. That and watching someone use an American flagpole with the flag still on it to spear and pummel one of our police officers ruthlessly, mercilessly, tortured by a pole with a flag on it that he was defending with his very life. People.
Jason, Representative Raskin goes on to talk about, people died that day. Moving. It's moving for any objective observer to watch that, relive that moment, the horror that was taking place on our very Capitol. And my question for you is, does it move any votes? You've got North Dakota's U.S. Senator Kevin Cramer coming out before the trial started saying this is the stupidest week in the United States Senate. Does reliving the terror that happened to those very members in the U.S. Senate, does it move any votes at the end of the day?
Well, you'd like to think that it would, but I don't think it will. I'm not an optimist in this respect. In regards to Senator Cramer's comments and Senator Hovind's position, I don't think they're movable at all. Comments like that, I just have to say, whether it's from a Democrat or a Republican, whenever I hear the Senate describe themselves as the world's greatest deliberative body, I want to report them to the Better Business Bureau for false advertising. That comments like that over something as serious and weighty as impeachment is really, I think, unsenatorial. But I'll leave it at that, and I'd say the same thing if that was said by a member of the Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it is. So I think that the House managers now are in the position where they know that at best they have 55 votes, which is still well short of the 67 they need to convict. So they're making the argument for history. And they have several advantages going for them. The first advantage is they have all of the jurors were there. The senators were there. They were the ones under attack. They were within minutes of being overrun and possibly taken hostage or worse by those rioters, as we now see with the video of the police officer. So they're going to be making the argument for history, and that's the argument they're going to be making, and they're going to make that argument, and the Senate's going to take their vote, and we'll see if there's any political fallout as a result of that.
Final question for you in the about a minute I have left here. When does this wrap up? My prediction was President's Day, which is Monday. Do you think it wraps up before, during, or after President's Day next Monday, Jason?
I think it'll probably be done certainly by next week at this time, next week, Wednesday, and then we'll move on to the COVID relief bill.
Well, and there's a lot to break down there. We'll have to save that for another time, though, Jason. I always appreciate your insight and your time explaining what in the world's going on, whether it's impeachment or COVID. You take care. We'll chat again soon, all right?
Thanks. Stay warm.
I'll try my best. It'll be cold one out there, folks. You're well aware of that. So, you got the impeachment trial taking place, and I don't think that there's anything that changes anybody's votes we'll wait to see when that final vote does take place. Coming up next, you know what's being voted on? A lot of things out in the Bismarck State Capitol. Aaron Oban, State Senator, next, right here on Down the Road.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Win $1,000 from the Beck News Fast Cash Contest. On Thursday, February 11th, watch Beck News programming to be entered to win $1,000. Watch Dr. Duke at 4, Ladies of Another View at 4:30, Down the Road with Joel at 5:30, No Apologies with Becker at 9, and No Filter with Debbie at 10. To enter, contact us during any show on Thursday in one of the following methods. That's it. Visit Beck.News for the full contest rules and showtimes. Beck News Fast Cash for $1,000.
Welcome back to Down the Road with Joel Heidkamp. I'm Tyler Axon is filling in for Joel. He will be back tomorrow to take you on down the road a little bit further. You know, we've spent about the last half hour talking about some national issues, but we cannot ignore what's happening right here in North Dakota. You've got every other year a legislative session that takes place. 80 days are limited to get the state's work done for the next 2 years. There's a lot to digest, some good, some bad, some what the world were they thinking. Here to help me understand a little bit more about that is State Senator Aaron Oban from Bismarck. Senator Oban, how are you? It's been a long time.
Hi, Tyler. It has been a long time. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you as well. How are things going out in the Capitol?
Well, you know, we're surviving. It would be nice if it wasn't 20 below, but we do live in North Dakota, so it was going to come eventually, and here it is. But keeping things toasty inside the Capitol. So.
Yeah, I've been following along as best I can from, about the other side of the state. And my question is it the perception because the oxygen is being sucked out of the room because of some of the ridiculous bills that are coming up? Or is there that many bills that leave one scratching their head that it's taking up a lot of your time?
Well, you know, what I would say, Tyler, and share with, your watchers is that the headlines you read coming out of the Capitol are a direct correlation to the individuals that we elect to serve in the legislature. And if those headlines are troublesome to you or appear to be completely extreme or a distraction from the real work that I think we're sent here to do, it's probably because they are. And so, my hope is that we can get serious. We can get rid of those bills that do nothing but divide people and get focused on the real priorities that we come here in such a short amount of time to take care of.
Well, and it is a short amount of time, and it's to plan for the next 2 years. And you know what? You don't have to look back very far to see how volatile things can go when it comes to what we rely on to fund schools, to fund infrastructure. And, we just are hopefully on the outskirts of a pandemic that just amplified how volatile things can be. And to see some of the bills that are taking up a lot of the time, and I'm going to get into some of the voter suppression bills a little bit later on here on down the road. My question is, there is a supermajority, and there has been, but now it's even larger. But there are some good individuals that have been there a long time. I think about Senator Judy Lee from West Fargo, for example. You know what? They want to get out there, just get the work done. How are they doing this session? We question of the delay into really diving into the important details. But I hear from some of those that I used to serve with as well on that side of the aisle saying, geez, it's at sometimes a circus. And I'm wondering, they've got their work cut out for them. They're within their caucus where you've got, some of these new members. What are they saying to you, Senator?
I think that, so I just looked, I think we're on day 26 or 7 or so. I would say we're tired already. And I don't, I've only served, this is my 4th session. I haven't felt this tired this early. And I think part of it is the fact that we, in North Dakota, for better or for worse, every bill gets a hearing, every bill gets a vote. And that means that you're dealing with some quite literal garbage for a decent amount of time. And no matter how quickly that bill gets moved and voted on, it still is taking up time out of the process, again, the very limited process that we have. And I think, yesterday when we were on the floor of the Senate voting on bills, you can check sort of what's happening in the other chamber. And I just glanced over at where they were on their calendar. We were 1 hour into our work in the Senate. We had taken care of some business things we had to take care of. Plus, I think we voted on probably 20 bills, and the House was still debating their first.
Wow.
And they have an extraordinary amount of bills over there that is going to delay, I think, our ability to just keep moving forward. And I really think some of your comments, Tyler, leading into the question, only highlight the importance of the debate we're having over in the Senate on moving to annual sessions. As folks know, the Constitution limits the legislature to meet 80 days every 2 years. That doesn't mean it has to be 80 days in one session. Right. It can be spread across 2. And I think the pandemic highlighted the importance of us being able to come and respond to either emergencies or just things that happen in North Dakota, especially when we live in a state based on such volatile commodity prices, to be able to respond.
Well, and I'm glad you brought me there. And I do want to add, it's not only time that's being consumed by these, it's money. It's taxpayer dollars that are paying for those committee hearings, the long drawn-out days. And the longer you go, the more dollars it costs each and every day to have you in session. But to the point of the annual session, it's been long overdue, Senator. I understand there's some people that are apprehensive saying, well, that's too close to a full-time session, full-time legislature. It isn't.
It's not.
It's not at all.
It's still the 80 days.
It's 80 days. And you know what? So if you do 20 and 60, there's a way to make it work with just one line item. And I'm glad to see that Senator Brad Beckedahl, Republican out of Williston, is really taking the charge on this. He also was the prime on that, I believe, last session. Didn't go anywhere.
Yep.
Are we getting closer? Because I think for everything you just rattled on about when it comes to oil, when it comes to the other issues, it shouldn't be left to the governor or a 6-member emergency commission to be doing the spending that is supposed to be on you as legislators. Are we getting any movement? Are you guys going to be back in session next year? or in 2 years?
Well,
How's it going?
I don't know that, I don't know if the bill were to pass both chambers and to be signed by the governor and to, go into law. I don't think we would automatically, reminding, how a bill becomes a law. I don't think that we would do like an automatic transition.
Sure.
And be right back in session next year. Although we're going to now be going through the redistricting process, which does mean we have to come back to be able to finalize what that looks like. What I do think it would change maybe some of our behavior. It would change, there are some states that will do like a budget session that, where they focus on just the money side of things, and another session the following year will focus on policy. So there's a lot of ways to work this in a way that, number one, does not expand government. So for any people who think that somehow not meeting in 1 year means you're growing government, it absolutely does not. It actually gives you more responsive government. And admittedly, my first session, Tyler, when I had no experience with this, I didn't know any better, and I voted to keep it as is. I learned very quickly this is not the most responsive government that you can have. And whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, I think accountable, responsive government is what we should all want.
I recall that first session, and you were sweet mates with me sitting in the front row of the state senate. I'm glad you have caught up to the annual session.
Did I not listen to you then?
No, I didn't look over to see how I was voting. But, for all the talk about executive orders, you bring up the pandemic about, the governor is just wheeling and dealing too much on his own here. Well, you know what? You can deal yourself a hand as a legislature if they want to do so. I do fear that there's a lot of people that have been elected because of a couple of things. One, they want the title. Two, that sweet benefit of the health insurance. And now they want to give themselves reimbursement for meals, which I don't need to get your take on. You live in Bismarck. You wouldn't apply for that. My final question for you, and the little bit of time we got left here, is one of the things that's been brought up a lot here, at least on the Fargo side, because of the young population that we've got, is paid family leave. And I know this has been an uphill battle for years now. And I've seen a few things. I've seen a proposal saying, yes, we should allow for this to be voluntary. I've seen other proposals saying we should prohibit even local governments from even offering it to their employees there. Are we going to get this deal done to bring in those young people that want to live here, start a family and work, or is this going to be kick the can down the road yet again?
Yeah, and Tyler, I'm a co-sponsor of, and that's House Bill 1441. The hearing for that bill was in the House Industry, Business, and Labor Committee last week, and the bill was amended to be a study. So there's not even going to be that option available for anybody to participate. But the point that I made during the hearing is this isn't just about young people. Paid family leave opportunities can literally impact the entire span of life. When you're thinking about the fact that paid leave is for spending time with the birth of a baby, but also at the end of life, where you might be a full-time caregiver for a certain period of time, or you have somebody who's really struggling with a kind of a health crisis that might be weeks or months long, where you have to be with them, or it is you yourself. That's not just for young people. That's for everybody.
No, and that's
it's unfortunate that we have not made much progress on that. I really hope that the legislature will seriously consider a real study on this so we can get the data we need to make good decisions.
Well, and there's one way to do that, and that's the viewers here on Down the Road with Joel Heidkamp on Beck TV to call your legislature, tell them, hey, look, it's time to really deep dive into Senator Oban. I'm out of time here. I appreciate you taking some time. I know how busy it is out there in the legislative session. You take care. We'll talk again soon, all right?
Hey, good to see you, Tyler.
You
Thanks
as well.
so much.
Senator Aaron Oban next. NDSU, Bison football in the spring. We're 11 days out. Josh Swanson, heard it here with Swanee next.
Howdy folks, it's the Caroline Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Boston breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous Caroline burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spur rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink for trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
Win $1,000 from the Beck News Fast Cash Contest. On Thursday, February 11th, watch Beck News programming to be entered to win $1,000. Watch Dr. Duke at 4, Ladies of Another View at 4:30, Down the Road with Joel at 5:30, No Apologies with Becker at 9, and No Filter with Debbie at 10. To enter, contact us during any show on Thursday in one of the following methods. That's it. Visit Beck.News for the full contest rules and showtimes. Beck News Fast Cash for $1,000.
Welcome back to Down the Road with Joel Heidkamp. I'm Tyler Axon filling in. Joel will be back tomorrow. And in fact, when he does come back, I want you to remind him about his prediction of the Super Bowl on Sunday. I watched last week as he predicted that Kansas City was going to run away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Didn't happen. What did happen, though, there was a good local story there related to NDSU and the Bison. And I wanted to dive a little bit more into that and talk about the spring football season coming up 11 days from right now. Here to talk about that is Josh Swanson. He's got a whole variety of expertise. He's an attorney at Vogel Law Firm, columnist of Bison Magazine, or Bison Illustrated, pardon me, and also Heard It Here with Swanee Radio out here in the Fargo area. Josh Swanson, or as we call you, Swanee, welcome to Down the Road. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Always good to talk Bison stuff.
Well, yeah, it's getting to be that time. And if you would have asked me months ago, were we going to actually have a spring football season, I would have said probably not. But you know what? North Dakotans, rallied together. They're able to, flatten that curve as best we can, and we're going to have a spring football season. I want to get to that in a moment. Let's take a step back to Sunday, though. Joe Haeg, from walk-on to world champion, and he had a moment. And I want you to listen and to watch the play call as it was taking place earlier on Sunday. I believe Jim Nance and Tony Romo with the call. Take a watch of this, Swanee.
Great moves out. Jones is the running back. Fake to Jones. Over the top they go. Oh, and it was a pass to Haeg, the extra lineman we had just mentioned. He had a chance to make the catch.
It's really an outstanding job by Hitchens, 53. Because nobody really thinks they're going to throw the ball to a guy who lets it hit his helmet.
No.
And just get his hand in there. It's not really a drop, right? He definitely didn't catch this clean.
It almost got wedged right in between.
So close, Josh. So, and I want to give props to Tony Romo because I heard some of the play calling on radio saying that Joe Haeg dropped that ball. He didn't. That was a great defensive play from the Kansas City Chiefs to knock that out. But how close and how cool would that have been for the walk-on? Again, I want to repeat that. A walk-on, now world champion.
For Kansas City to get skunked on touchdowns in that game and Joe Haig to have an opportunity as a tackle eligible to score at our Super Bowl party, the entire basement went nuts thinking he caught it. And then the linebacker did get his hand in there and strip it loose. But Joe was an offensive lineman. You got to get your hands out there and extend and then bring that ball in and hold on to it tight. That would have been it's fantastic, a great moment for North Dakota State and Joe winning his Super Bowl. But that would have been something else if you'd hung on for that touchdown to catch a touchdown from Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. And I actually have to give credit to my brother, Justin, who works for NDSU. He was yelling before the play started, Joe is eligible. It's tackle eligible. They're going to throw to Joe. And we all looked at him and said, you're an idiot. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. What a great Super Bowl, though, for the Buccaneers and for NDSU's own Joe Haig to walk away with the Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, there's no question. I think I could hear you guys probably from my house. In fact, I think every house that was watching that has followed Joe Haig for NDSU now to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You had that audible gasp and then the disappointment. And I'm going to cut the big man some slack. Offensive lineman, I was one back in my day. We were never taught, hey, get the hands out there, catch away from your body. I'll give him a break. But just a feel-good story of one of our own right here in the area. Let's move forward here. We're 11 days to where you've got NDSU football coming right back to the Fargo Dome. It's going to look a little different. In fact, earlier today, I was seeing that some other games being moved around because of the pandemic that is ongoing. I'm curious, what are your expectations coming up on February 21st, a Sunday night or Sunday afternoon football game?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, hopefully the game is actually played, as you alluded to. Western Illinois and South Dakota have already moved their game, which was supposed to occur the opening spring week here to April and that cushion week. But I think with any football at any level, you're talking about the trenches, right? Matt Entz will be the first to tell you this game, along with a lot of other Valley games, is one on the offense and defensive front. So for me, heading into the game, I think the biggest unknown outside of all the issues surrounding COVID, with North Dakota State offensive line, you only have two starters back in Cordell Volson and Nash Jensen. Now you have guys with playing time and experience there, but you've got three new starters on that offensive line. How are they going to handle starting for the Rams, a position group that included a guy like Joe Haig, who won a Super Bowl, Billy Turner, who was in the NFC Championship, and so on. So I'll be paying real close attention to the offensive line. And then on the defensive front, the Bison have some experience with guys like Spencer Wagee and Logan McCormick, mixed in with some youth and some guys who are very highly recruited, and now it's their opportunity to show what they can do.
There's two things you touched on that I want to take a little bit more for a walk here. The recruitment side, this is going to be a new team. A lot of people, because of the unusual year, decided, they weren't coming back, unfortunately. But you mentioned Joe Haig, you mentioned Billy Turner, and the level which they're playing. You could add Board for the Baltimore Ravens to that list as well. I mean, we're talking about high-profile NDSU Bison playing at a high caliber in the NFL. What does that do for NDSU recruitment?
From a recruiting perspective, it gives you instant credibility, no matter if you're in Bow Bells, North Dakota, Miami, Florida, or El Paso, Texas, where NDSU just landed a wide receiver, because you can say things like, Joe Haig just won a Super Bowl. Trey Lance, Dylan Radins, and Jabril Cox all could be first or high second round, top 50 draft picks. So it gives you that credibility when you're talking with recruits and their parents, that if your son's dream is to play at the next level, NDSU checks that box. What it also does, Tyler, is when you're a guy like Radins or a Jabril Cox or a Trey Lance, or even a Derek Tuska, who's playing in the NFL right now, the NFL knows NDSU. NDSU is not just on the radar; they're on the road as far as NFL draft scouts and personnel coming in. So they've got that pedigree, they've got that track record. So it helps on both sides of the equation when you're recruiting a student athlete, and then when you get to the end of the process, you can honestly and sincerely tell a young man, if you work hard enough and your goal is to play in the National Football League, you have the opportunity to do that here at North Dakota State.
Well, let's take that a step further. We do have the draft coming up. There's been a lot of speculation on Trey Lance. Where does he fall? Is he going to be in the top 10? I know that there's a certain team on the NFC South side that's been rumored to be looking at Trey Lance, and the Carolina Panthers, which I've got some thoughts on that, being a Carolina Panthers fan myself. I will know, if he does get drafted, who's jumping on the bandwagon by all the Trey Lance jerseys that are going to be purchased in the area here. But you start with the quarterback. I mean, you can take a look at Carson Wentz and what that did, raising the level there. It's not just Trey Lance, though, that is making some room or making some noise to potentially get drafted. I mean, we're talking about some level of talent leaving NDSU, going pro, perhaps unlike we've seen before, Swanee.
That's an absolute fair statement. You have 4 schools in the country that have more than one player that are rated in the top 40 for the draft. You've got Alabama, you got Virginia Tech, you have Miami, and you have North Dakota State. So that speaks to the type of athlete NDSU is producing, and the fact that only a few short years ago we were having a conversation with Carson Wentz going number 2. Well, NDSU will never see that again. That's lightning in a bottle. Here we are 2 quarterbacks later, the quarterback sandwich between Carson and Trey. Easton Stick was drafted by the Chargers, and now you have Trey Lance, who could be a top 10 draft pick. And I think you're right, Tyler. I think with the movement with NFL quarterbacks this offseason, with the Matt Stafford and Jared Goff deal, and now with Carson Wentz, who at any day could find himself at somewhere like Indianapolis and Chicago, I suspect that someone's going to trade up to that 2 or 3 spot and draft Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance, by the time they get to the Panthers pick at, I think, number 8 there, he's going to be long gone.
Well, we'll be watching along, and I tell you what, we'll talk about it then. Swanee, that's all the time I've got for today. You take care. Maybe we'll see you up at NDSU, I guess, here in just about 11 days. All right, man?
I'll be there in the West Lot tailgating in the winter weather.
All right. Swanee, take care. Josh Swanson heard it here. I tell you what, in North Dakota, we've got the legislative session just heard from Senator Oban. I want to talk about some bills that would suppress your vote coming up next on Down the Road with Joel Heidkamp.
There's nothing more important than family. And at Prairie Rose Family Dentists, we get it. That's why we have more locations, more dentists, specialists, extended hours, pediatric clinics, and even emergency appointments, so you can always be seen. Book your appointment today at prairierosedentist.com. Prairie Rose Family Dentists. We are family.
Deciding how to promote your business can be hard. Visit the professionals at Dakota Promotions and Printing and let them help you through your struggle. Dakota Promotions provides promotional items and apparel, from corporate gifts to team shirts and everything in between. With quick turnaround times and friendly service, they are your best choice. And best yet, you're shopping local. Visit them online at dakotapromo.com or stop in their showroom at 320 West Main in Mandan. Dakota Promotions, delivering promotions just for you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather, like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with 1 truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make 1 call. Aero Service Team does it all.
The experienced professionals at Superior Glass provide residential and commercial glass installation and repair services in central and western North Dakota. Superior Glass is your source for stained glass projects, mirrors, windows, touchless, and automated entry solutions. Stop by and see us at 3323 East Broadway in Bismarck, or call us at 701-258-5600. Superior Glass, where you get superior service for less. Bye for now.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Folks, in what little bit of time I've got left here with you to take you down the road is I want to highlight what's going on out in Bismarck right now. We've had Senator Oban on, but we did not have a chance to talk about the fact that there are over 24 bills that are out there to impact your vote and your ability to do so in the next election. I think the obvious question is why? You've got a supermajority in the legislature now trying to change how the rules are played, even though they won by those very same rules, handedly. They lost 3 elections in the last election cycle, 2020. They won every single statewide office handily. And for them, I think most importantly, Donald Trump won the state handily to become the winner of North Dakota and get the 3 electoral votes. So why would they want to go ahead and change the rules going forward when they have been very successful at utilizing those rules? I think it's pretty simple. It's because they're taking what's going on nationally and some of the conspiracy theories that are out there, and they want to make it harder from the boogeyman voting out there. I don't understand it. I think it's wrong, and I think you need to make it known to your lawmakers that they should not be making it more difficult for you to exercise your right to vote in the next election. And if they do impose some of these rules and make it more difficult, this could very well lead to an initiated measure that's going to lead to easier access to the ballot, which is the way we should be going in North Dakota and, quite frankly, across the country. We'll be watching, and you know what? I'm sure Joel Heidkamp, next time on Down the Road, will be telling you about that and much, much more. It's been fun. I hope I can do it again. For those of you on the east side, I do have the radio show, NDExplains.com as well. You can go there and follow up on some more of North Dakota politics. I'm Tyler Axness. It's been fun riding with you.